All right, everybody, welcome back to Behind the Lens. This is your boy Zoe, and thank you for tuning in to WDRBmedia, the voice of the community. So I am super duper excited for our next guest, Miss Monifa Basdeo, owner and operator of Picture Perfect Photography based out of Charleston, South Carolina. Monifa, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing
Thanks so much for
amazing.
having me.
Yes, I'm grateful that you accepted the invitation and happy to have you part of this show and part of this conversation. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how Picture Perfect Photography came to be.
Well, I've been photographing people for over 12 years now. I actually was doing it in high school, which is back in 1996 in the journalism department. But capturing people really wasn't my thing then. It was just having fun with the camera. I come from a family to where they take pictures of literally everything. So growing up that way was like, oh God, I hate seeing a camera, but I love being behind the lens. And it came about after my husband and I had our first son, Ian, and it was to see him evolve. I just had to capture like those moments because it's ever so fleeting, basically. And it was something that I began to cherish as I look back over his pictures, and it grew into something much more to where other families began to see the value in the pictures that I would capture of him, and then wanted me to take pictures of their beautiful families. And 12 years later, here I am.
Awesome. And I love that because, a lot of photographers and just different people now, they're just picking up the camera just to pick up the camera, but you have purpose behind it. And I love that.
Right. P3 photography, the reason why the name did come about, it was because a lot of people actually would say, oh, wow, that's just picture perfect, or this picture is just completely perfect. And after hearing it a couple of times, it kind of stuck. And I was like, you know what? It's pretty much cliche, but it's like, you know what, picture perfect photography. And then it just stuck with me, and I just kind of branded myself from then on.
Yeah, and it's definitely picture perfect. For those of you who don't know, Monifa actually photographed my wedding, me and my wife's wedding back in 2019, our engagement
Yes.
session. And even taking it further back, me and Monifa, we grew up, well, she's older than me, but we're from the same area. And she actually
Right.
took my senior photos. So I've
Right.
seen your work evolve over the years, and I am just
Yes.
mind blown and beyond proud of you.
Thank you so much. I mean, and it really it's a continuous work in progress, because as things begin to develop and technology begins to change, and equipment begins to change, you're ever evolving. So it's a you have to keep up with what's going on and stuff like that to kind of keep things fresh and keep things anew, but while still keeping your style in the progress
Right.
of it. So I'm always developing, I'm always learning, I'm always willing to learn. I believe in constructive criticism. I love feedback. And I think that's important for any company or business person to keep in mind, that feedback and customer service, all of that's good. And it's okay if someone says, well, you know what, I really don't like this, I really don't like that. It's okay to get that feedback, because it may be something that you want to work on, or maybe something to where you're like, well, I'm just fine with that. But I believe that, with good businesses, it's good to get feedback, see what it is that the people desire, see if it fits in with what it is that you are trying to offer to, your community, and just go from there.
And I just wanted to touch on briefly, you are a published photographer.
Yes, sir, I am. I've been published quite a few times now. I did win some awards a couple of years back. I'm not sure to this day who kept nominating me for the awards, but I thank you if you're listening. I appreciate it. But yes, being published is really, it's such a blessing. It's really a blessing. And my first Mona Luci published event was actually with you and Phoenicia. So that was like, that took me, like, my pressure went like sky high, basically. I was like, wait, what? So they accepted the publication and everything, and I was just really honored. And, I just really thank UNC for entrusting me because, your wedding day is a day that you'll never get back. There are no do-overs. So you want to make sure that you are hiring someone that you can trust with those moments and those images and stuff like that. And the awards and publications, those are all a plus. But, for the most part, what matters is that those are memories that you and Fee will have forever. And that's what matters most with me.
All right, y'all, we're going to take just a brief break. And after the break, we will continue our discussion with Monifa about self-care. You're tuned into WDRB Media, the voice of the community. The only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Don't go anywhere because we'll be right back. 'Cause girl, that every little thing you do. So I know that's something that you are adamant about. That's something that you promote often on your social media platforms. So I just wanted to get your view on it. Talk to our listeners about that.
When it comes to self-care, I would tell you that you should always put yourself first. If you cannot, if you're not at 100% or operating at 100% mentally and physically, then you can't do you can't perform the responsibilities that you have, whether that's you being a spouse, a parent, a business owner, a confidant, or, you have to learn to put yourself aside and take time for yourself. And I am an advocate when it comes to mental health for anyone. And that just goes just for life, just in general. It's okay to take a step back and just do something that's going to help you release your energy, release some negative energy and gain some positive energy. And self-care is very important because, we do have a lot of things that can get under our skin nowadays. Right. So you have to be able to blow that steam off in a good way, regroup, and then go back out there in the world and do what you're destined to do. So self-care is very important, and you always come first. Without you, there is no you. So if you can't, take yourself out of bad, negative things, find a way to do that. That's very important. It is very important.
Yeah, and that's the journey that I'm currently on, just trying to put myself first, because I'm one that would always jump to say yes to everybody's request and this and that.
Right.
And always giving myself the short end of the stick. So in this season, I'm really more adamant and just more intentional about just putting myself first, me first and foremost in my household, my wife, my family, and just going from there.
Right. And that's smart. That's very smart, Lorenzo. I mean, you have to put yourself first, and it's not selfish. It's not selfish because if you think about it, if you don't put yourself first and get what it is that you need, then you're going to be frustrated and you're not going to be at 100% in whatever it is you're doing. So whomever you're servicing or serving is going to get the short end of the stick anyway. So yes, 100% self-care is a necessity.
Yeah. So how do you ensure that, you're being your best self? What are some of the tactics that you do to just kind of unwind and relax?
I've recently started to meditate first thing in the morning. Exercise was never necessarily a thing of mine. I did it back in the days because of playing sports and all that good stuff. But I've, learned that when I wake up in the morning, I meditate, I get into my prayer zone. And that really helps kind of start my day off because it clears my head. It gives me a sense of direction of what I need to do, for the day. And I've recently started planning my day before I start planning for what's to come for the next day. And that has helped a lot because a lot of times we can feel overwhelmed with work, responsibilities, and we just don't know how to prioritize. And a lot of times it's because we don't plan accordingly. So one of the things that I've started doing is waking up in the morning, getting into my meditation mode, doing my prayer. If the kids come in the room, nope, you just gotta wait. Go back in your room. I will tend to you in a couple of minutes. because
Oh,
you
that's
have
good.
to have that, yeah, you have to have, that me time. In order for me to be my best self, I have to start off with a clear head, with clear intentions, and that really helps my day go along much better.
That's good stuff. And it's good that you train your children that way.
Right,
Because
right.
by you doing that, you're also teaching them that, it's okay for them to, take a moment for themselves as well.
Right, right. So now they basically know. The little one, the 5-year-old, sometimes he'll be a little bit kind of, well, overbearing in the mornings, but for the most part, he already knows. Okay, well, if the door is closed and mom has the door locked, okay, she's in there, meditating and whatnot, and she's not to be disturbed. So
Right.
yeah, and I do believe in personal spaces too. People have to have their personal space, and it's okay to have your personal space.
Right. So I just have my wife, but you have, your husband and the kids. So how do you balance first and foremost your personal life as, yourself, your married life with Kevin, and then, your life as a mother to the children? How do you separate?
I I put it on a calendar.
Mm,
I love what I do, and I love servicing, the community and servicing people. But God and my family does come first. They are my why, and because they are my why, I make sure that I set aside time for them no matter what. So I pre-schedule that way. I already know what we have planned, and I already blocked out that weekend or those days or whatever I need to block out to have that family time. And then I just book everything else basically around that. And along with that, it's not just family time. I also have my me time as well. So I will put my me time in that mix of that my calendar days as well. So I have to schedule it. You basically have to schedule it. If you don't, you will find yourself overbooking. You'll find yourself completely exhausted from weekend to weekend to weekend because you just didn't take the time to say, all right, this week I'm blocking it completely off for family. Next week Wednesday and Thursday, I'm just going to take off to do some me time, some self-care. That's what I do. That's what works for me.
okay. And I'm glad you said that because I find myself in that position where, yeah, at first I didn't want to have my life bound by a schedule or a calendar, but it's 100% necessary
It is.
for
It
the sake
really
of
is.
my mental and just my overall health. Is necessary.
It is very necessary. So I'm glad that you do realize that because, sometimes, when I was first getting really, really busy and stuff like that, my husband would be like, okay, well, now wait a minute, you're going again like, we haven't been together like over like 2 months. We haven't done any family time or anything in like 2 months. And then I look over my calendar and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, he has a point, and it came to a point to where I realized that I could not work an 8-hour full-time job and basically be a full-time photographer. So at that point, I had to let one of them go. So, that was a big move for me, but it was something that I had to do because I'm only one person.
Right.
So you do what you have to do.
Definitely. Well, I am glad. I just want to keep this conversation going, but my time is running thin. But this is good stuff. And this is like definitely on time for, this stage of my life that I'm in. And I'm sure this is good stuff for just the listeners out there because a lot of people, they run themselves dry. And
Right,
there's so much
right, right.
potential and just different things built up in each and every one of us, different talents that I believe God gave us, but we can't operate at our best selves when we're worn out all the time, you know?
Exactly. It's totally okay to be selfish when it comes to you every once in a while. It is totally okay. I am totally for that.
Well, Monifa, I thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so much for having me.
definitely, can you tell our listeners real quick where they can reach out to you, find you, your website, social media, all that jazz?
Yes, you can go to my website, which is www.p3photography08.com. And you could find me on Facebook and Instagram at P3Photography08. And I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you.
Awesome. Well, with that, we will be right back, and thank you for tuning in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community.